William Regal is all elite. Isaiah Scott is all elite. And Revolution was a very long show. Jesus Christ, it's a long show. Anyway, before I get into it a little bit more, my name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp, and I am here to review AEW Revolution with Wrestling Headlines Aftershock, here live on YouTube and available in podcast form later. And my God, it was a very long show. I'm just going to put that out first immediately. In terms of like, what are my actual feelings right now? I want to go to bed. Like, I love you, Tony. I really enjoyed this show. I really enjoyed the matches. But I will just say, in terms of pacing of the overall show, there was a 1 hour period, I think, like after CM Punk MJF, and it wasn't until the tag match. There were like 2 matches in a row where I'm just sitting there like, ugh. I mean, these are still good matches. I'm just knackered. So, yeah, I mean, to see that sentiment kind of picked up upon as well from other people was like, oh, that's interesting that I was feeling that, and then I went and yeah, it's interesting that was a very similar feeling thing. But I will just say there were some really good moments throughout this show. William Regal, all elite, Jesus Christ, my God. But yeah, anyway. It felt like it's going to be a difficult show to review because like the things I want to talk about are kind of random scattered things after matches and things. It kind of makes sense. Let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about Hangman Page, Adam Cole. Then let's go through the show, maybe just in order, so we're ending on the awesome tag team match, which I really enjoyed. The craziness. Sting, my God, Sting. You're in your 60s. My word. Anyway, so the show was main evented by Hangman Page versus Adam Cole for the AEW Championship. Loud "Let's go Adam" chants kicked us into the match as the crowd's just happy for both men. Like, these Hangman title defenses do not miss. This was another one on fire. They were able to hold the attention of a tired crowd like 4 hours deep into a exhausting show in the best way, kind of. That's why it's a weird one to review. My critique is in the pacing, not the quality of the matches, because the quality of the matches were all great. But this is a common thing with AEW shows where you reach a point where you're just tired. It's like, yes, I have enjoyed it. Yes, these matches are still good, but I've fatigued of the thing. There is such a thing as too much delicious cake. You start to feel it's a little bit, I just need a minute just to digest it. That's what I get with the AEW pay-per-views. I get about 2.5 hours in and I'm ready for it to just ramp up to the main event. Like, you cut out 2 matches on this card. And, like, as much as I loved the tag, maybe cut this match, maybe find one earlier in the card as well, and it just squishes it. Even though every match is great and deserves time to get showcased, I'm tired. The show itself is a bit more difficult to get through. Anyway, talk about the main event. So, like, energy recouped as Adam versus Adam drew full attention. Also, massive shout out to the tag team match before this, which woke the crowd right back up. Mixed in with William Regal turning up at the end of Marxley Danielson. Like, those things together. Because when I look at a thing like this, and like I'm not a normal viewer when I watch things. Like, I'm watching this thinking, well, why is this here? To then, because I know what's coming up. And then I saw the Marxley Danielson. The crowd wasn't massively awake for. But they were rejuvenated with William Regal coming out. Then that was followed by a really high energy 6-man tag. Then it's kind of like, well, they've decided, maybe they knew in formulating this card. This is the type of stuff that's the people putting the card together do think about, just in terms of pacing. It's like, well, we can wake them back up with this, give them an electrifying match, and then they're woke up again for the main event. And it works. And then the main event itself was fantastic, which really doesn't hurt either. But the crowd will right back up awake for it, rather than being dead and a little bit, then you have a solid main event. So, they got woken up beforehand, and the main event was also solid. But the match itself, like Cole's tactic to wear down the champion's arm, given how devastating the buckshot lariat has proven to be. Only problem is how many counters the Cowboys got for all of the rest of the wrestling moves. Good God. Like, no fear, just counter back with an amazingly timed super kick to a moonsaulting Hangman. Like, ebb and flow back and forth with both lads countering each other again and again. The offense they were throwing at each other, elevating as Hangman hits the amazing moonsault fall away. I cannot applaud this match enough. I really, really highly rated it. as in to say how solid this card is for me, this probably isn't anywhere near my favourite match on the show. There was, especially the first, up until CM Punk CM Punk MJF, I was like, oh my god, this is like all-time great. In terms of my personal preference, this is like all-time great. I'm going back to watch this show. Levels of great. And this match, yeah, easily amongst them. Really, really solid. The momentum that Page built up was dangerous enough to call out Fish and O'Reilly towards the end for the distraction. Panama Sunrise to the outside, on the outside. Kick out. Another distraction. Low blow. Panama Sunrise on the inside. A boom. Kick out. They're just like, oh my god, what is it going to take to put this champion down? The crowd fully behind both Adams. They were just happy for both guys the entire match. So many different Adam chants. I've seen people from the arena just tweet out all the different chants that are happening. Obviously started off with "Let's go Adam," and then there was "Let's go Adam. Adam sucks." Because obviously they're both called Adam. Oh, did you know that both lads were called Adam? Oh, you wouldn't have guessed it from the reaction from this crowd. The crowd fully behind both of them at that final stretch with a dueling chant between the two of them, and a fantastically fitting flurry followed as Hangman ducked the boom. Cole super kicked a buckshot aiming Page. Destroyer through a table was reversed into a deadeye through the table at ringside. This calls out the Dark Order to even the odds as a full-on brawl ensued. Buckshot lariat, but Cole was there with the Kevin Owens fingertip save. Hangman booed for the first time as he wrapped his belt buckle, tying Cole's wrist to the ropes for a super kick at Onslaught, hitting the boom himself while flipping with the final buckshot for the win. And it's like, oh, I just loved the flow of that. To the point where they showed the champion getting so desperate that he felt like in order to win, he had to kind of dig a bit deeper into that dirty bag of tricks. And just, yeah, wrapping the wrist of Cole to the ropes as he super kicks him like 3 or 4 times. And the crowd booed because obviously that's not the actions of a clean champion. But he dug that far. And personally, I love it when like a meant to be babyface guy digs that, because that's a really important kind of character beat. As yes, he is, but this should be babyface kind of character that I will fight for. But just to show that they can go to that further place. As in, like really, I'm talking about like Hiroshi Tanahashi is great at this, where he will show he is more than willing to kind of do those dirty tricks. He's more than willing, and that really, really kind of helps it as a character. When somebody pushes him, you know he can go there. It's a really useful character beat. Like, yeah, you don't have to have your good guy character show every single like goody trait under the sun. Those characters end up not believable because nobody is that perfect. And yeah, this helps kind of show that. And Hangman's story is about kind of overcoming his struggles, that he'll constantly say himself he's not the perfect human. So it kind of makes sense that he would decide to do something like this. Like, I like it. And it's the first time we see him booed, which is another important step in him losing the title at some point. Especially if it's like, you can create that world where it doesn't have to be a bad guy to take it off him. If you kind of sow those seeds that show he will be more than willing to dig deep into that kind of dirty bag of tricks, then when it comes to a possible like a babyface challenger, which is something we've not really seen Page do yet, then there is that dynamic. It's like, yes. And you can grow that dynamic over time. I love it. It means that my prediction of MJF as the next champion isn't certain. And I love not being certain in a world like this. But yeah, like a really solid main event. However, in terms of like the overall show as a whole, I felt like the first match, Eddie Kingston Jericho, incredible opener, followed up by just AEW tag team matches on pay-per-views are like match of the year every time for me. Absolutely love them. Face of the Revolution ladder match was also fantastic fun. Cargill versus Conti for me absolutely banged. CM Punk versus MJF was that bloody war to an incredibly told story. And then I was just knackered. I was knackered for Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. I was knackered for Moxley versus Danielson. Regal woke me up. The electric energy charging down the ramp that was Darby Allin. That match was exactly what I needed at that exact point, because again, I was knackered. I was ready for bed over like 40 minutes ago. I'm like, okay, Tony, I'm ready for this to be like it, because I am just knackered. And yeah, it's the one critique I've got of AEW pay-per-views, which normally, like, they do really deliver. And I wouldn't say any match in particular was bad. But in terms of pacing, I got knackered to the point of I just want to go to bed type of thing. Even though I'm watching good wrestling. I got to that point. It turns out what I wanted was just like balls to the walls, crazy, high energy just to wake me back up, which we got. With the Regal reveal as well. Like, as a show as a whole, it's a weird one. Because if you look at it, if you were to like rate each individual match, like if you were to go to Cage Match, this pay-per-view should do really well on Cage Match. You should see really high ratings for this. But for me personally, like the pacing is like a big deal, kind of, when I'm watching a show like this. I generally just became knackered with it. If I'm going to re-watch this show, I'm skipping like 3 matches, I reckon, like in the middle of it, and going straight to the crazy tag team match. I'm probably going straight from what was before CM Punk. Yeah, I'm probably going straight from Cargo Conti to the crazy tag match. Just because, as much as I love Punk MJF, that's probably a match I'm watching in isolation. If I'm watching that again. For me, watching Revolution, I know as much as I enjoyed that match, by the end of it, I was very tired. It drained me a lot, took a lot of emotion out of me. By the time it was done, I just wanted to rest. So yeah, it's a great match. Just, you know, maybe in isolation in terms of my rewatch. But I feel like it's a strong enough pay-per-view where I do want to rewatch it. But it also had, for me, massive pacing problems, where after Punk MJF, it was 2 matches in a row that I was trying to pay attention, but I was watching them go, just thinking, like, I want to like this match more than I actually am enjoying it. It's like, that's a shame. That's a shame. But, like, yeah, again, really solid show. It depends what you want, really. If you want solid wrestling, then I'd probably recommend taking a break whilst you watch this show. But this show will deliver it for you. It was really, really solid, really high quality. If you kind of overall, if that's not as big a deal for you, and you more like to kind of the overall show as you watch it, it's kind of what's important. You like to experience that type of thing. Then there is a massive pacing problem with it. I just became absolutely knackered. Not paying half because I was watching it. I was paying attention. I just became tired. I wanted to move on to the next thing. I won't say the word bored because the wrestling was still a really high quality, but I was just tired. I wasn't as invested as I wanted to be, especially with like with Marxley versus Danielson, where I was a really big fan of the build. It gets to the match itself, and I'm tuning out. Which is like, right, I'm really excited for this match. But when the entrances were happening, I was like, yes, awesome. Like, you've woken me back up. Yeah, great. And then the match happened, and I'm like, I'm actually just tired. The other asterisk, I am saying that as a British person, where when the match started, it was what, 3:30, 4 in the morning. So I am allowed to feel tired, like perfectly fine. Obviously, like the European audience compared to the American audience, like when we're watching live, we're doing it at an absurd hour. So when a show has pacing problems, like, we'll have zero remorse. It will really hit us. And AEW Revolution had pacing problems. But absolutely solid wrestling. And the most important thing is the final match left you on a good note. Like, Page vs. Cole was a really solid main event. And for me, in terms of like the different feeling coming out from the last pay-per-view I covered in WWE Royal Rumble, the Royal Rumble, I felt like I enjoyed a lot of that show. I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed a fair chunk of that show, but I thought the main event stank. I really did not enjoy the men's Royal Rumble match, and it leaves you on a sour note. Like, okay, that's a bit of a shame. And for me, that's a massive critique. Where for me, Revolution, I didn't enjoy like a 1 hour period after CM Punk MJF, but it left me on a good note, and that's what I'm going to remember when I go to bed finally. And hopefully the birds chirping, because I can bloody hear those birds chirping outside the window. But when I go to bed, I'm going to remember that this show left me on a good note. I'm not going to be sitting there going, oh, I've just been on a show having moaned for ages because I'm just such a bad mood. It left me. No. I'm in a good mood. This is why I don't like giving numbers for things. Like, given the words that I've said, what score do you give that in terms of really, really solid wrestling, pacing problems, but it's still really solid during those pacing problems, and then it leaves you on a good note. so you are happy when you left it. So yeah, but I'm not going to forget. If you give it an 8 or 9, depends how important those things are to you individually. Which is why, again, for me, I don't do the numbers. The words are more important. Listen to what I'm saying. Anyway, really, really solid pay-per-view. Yeah, again, pacing problems for a certain section. Left you on a good note with a great main event. There's some really high energy. The first 4 or 5 matches, it was banger after banger after banger. I'm just like, oh my god, this is going for all-time great. And then I just tuned out for an hour in terms of recovering after seeing Bug MJF. Got back in with the high energy. Got back in with the main event. And then, yeah, cool. That's my overview of it. Now I'm going to go into just the remaining matches, run by run, into the card order. As going into the show, I was just once again asking, is this AEW's most stacked pay-per-view card ever? And I look at it and I'm just it might be, and that might be a problem because there's no breathing room after you have this incredible banger. It's great for the first 2 hours. You're just oh my god, this is just a fantastic match, And I felt like the first 4 matches were on the card absolutely perfectly. And there were reports early in the week that they were struggling to figure out the exact order of the card. Maybe because they knew that CM Punk MJF was just going to be such an emotionally draining match in the best way possible. That because you're just so invested in what's happening that you're going to be tired afterwards. But what do you put on afterwards when they want you to be invested in every match that's there? Obviously, this, you know the answer. It's AEW. This is where they put the women. It happens pay-per-view after pay-per-view. It's it's a shame. But I think that the only AEW pay-per-view that hasn't slotted a women's match kind of in that spot was Double or Nothing. When they returned with live fans and they were crowning Britt Baker as champion. I think that's the only time that I've not watched the pay-per-view go, what do you put after this incredible match to then make sure you've got the energy for the main event or what comes afterwards? It's the women. But that means there isn't going to be much of a reaction for the women. It happened again here as well, unfortunately. Anyway, the first match of the show, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Eddie Kingston versus Chris Jericho. Absolutely loved this. An amazing dynamic. What an intense heat Eddie Kingston fires at. That man. Jericho kicking off the show all showman and cheer. Everybody sings along. Then Eddie just charges out right to the ring to half and half suplex a bastard. Immediately setting the tone as Jericho's launched right onto his head. Kind of all groggy at ringside. I was that was Britt. That's so good. From the way that because they have painted Jericho as more the kind of showman, sports entertainer-y in this feud. And Eddie Kingston, some tactics not everyone's gelled with, but I kind of got the overall gist they were going for. I was you know what, I kind of like that. Eddie Kingston, the straight shooter. It's no, I just want to beat the crap out of you. And you got that here as well. You got that set with the tone with their entrances. Jericho with his song, looking out to the crowd as they all sing along. And then Eddie Kingston just straight out, ready, cool. First thing that happens in the match is Eddie Kingston launches the showman onto his head. He's just groggy at ringside for a minute. It's it was so good. Again, from the Eddie Kingston intensity to the way Jericho just sells it. Just, every part of that, I was this is the perfect start to this match. Everyone played their part to a T. Jericho as well, looking in the best shape of his AEW career. Yeah, you could feel it in this match as well. Going full pelt as they wrestled that awesomely intense Kingston style. Jericho, not only was he in good shape, but he wrestled the Kingston style. And this is something that I applaud in the G1 Climax, where kind of every wrestler in that tournament wrestles the other wrestler's style, which means that you get a mix of the two different styles in every single kind of match that you get. And this was Jericho doing that with Eddie Kingston. Yes, there were some Jericho moments within the match, but this felt very Eddie Kingston. I was I love that. I love it. A suplex to Eddie off the apron. Oh, that looked painful. A half and half in return. Oh, these two beating the crap out of each other. Eddie's fight refusing to die as Jericho became increasingly frustrated and pushed ref Aubrey. Boo! Immediately reaping for his sins as Eddie suplexed the man to hell to lead into an awesome backfist nearfall. The John Cena, what did he call it? The John Cena lightning. Was it the lightning fist? Which was that was. I genuinely had completely forgotten about that, and just during this match, Eddie Kingston did his back fist. I was like, I have definitely seen that in WWE. Just remembered. I was like, oh, it was John Cena. They really built that up. He's got this new finishing move, and then he does it, and just immediately the reaction was bit crap. And then he would like only do it like within like the middle of a match in the future, like 1 or 2 times. The move did not get over. But yeah, in this match, Jericho had Kingston down, but he had to beat him with the Judas effect. And that kind of part of his ego, that led to his demise. And with one bruised eye, Eddie flew in with a back fist after back fist after back fist. And Eddie Kingston wins the big one in a complete shock. But not in a complete shock, but in like a complete shock to Jericho. But Jericho lost the match. It was him. He had it won. And then his ego was like, no, I'm going to hit the Judas effect to win. And that lets Eddie Kingston in, who is an absolutely solid fighter. But was Jericho a man of his word, saying in the build-up to this that if Eddie Kingston were to beat him, he'd shake his hand in the middle of the ring? Nah, of course not. Of course he wasn't. I want to say, this was arguably my favourite Chris Jericho match in AEW. Doesn't mean it was like the best, but for me personally, I absolutely love this match. I feel like by far this is my favourite Chris Jericho match in AEW. Really, I absolutely love the intensity. The way these Eddie Kingston matches on pay-per-view, oh, they're so good. But yeah, if he's opening with Miro, or if he's got like the close to blood feud with CM Punk, like, then he reached those levels in like 2-3 weeks. Eddie Kingston just brings that intensity, and again here with Jericho, it was like a lightning opener to the match. Such hot intensity, like the crowd just amped up. You could feel it, almost like stamping on the feet in stamping on the ground with their feet in anticipation. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Like, round of applause. Absolutely bang of an opener. After that, the AEW Tag Team Championship. This at this point, easily, like this is 2 matches in, and as I'm making the entrances, I'm just like, well, I know this is going to be amazing. It's going to be right up my street. You're going to get that kind of 4-on-2 for a little bit, then Bucks and Red Dragon, they'll start to fall out, and then you get that built up, and then you'll get the craziness of all 3 teams together, kind of just whoever gets the momentum just snatches that. And oh, yeah, it was exactly that. It was everything I wished for, everything I wanted. And look at the matches to come, because I'd seen like lots of statements of, is this the best card they've ever put on? And I don't often look at things like that. I'm just like invested in what's going on, or critical of certain things. I don't look at the whole kind of card flow picture until the day of, or sometimes even like when I'm watching the show. Not getting with this one, and like 2 matches in, I'm like, they might be right, you know. I don't see a downward spiral anywhere on this show, just because every single match is absolutely solid. So anyway, it was Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus as the champions versus the Young Bucks and Red Dragon. AEW yet again delivering incredible tag team action on pay-per-view. They just don't miss. They just don't. A second great dynamic in a row after we got the awesome Chris Jericho Eddie Kingston run. As like we had our soft 4-on-2 handicap match, which then descended into 6-man madness. Young Bucks and Red Dragon operating almost as one before the draw of glory rips them apart. So yes, exactly what I wanted. All the meanwhile, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy were looking amazing as they constantly were fighting their way through an onslaught of offense. Like, Red Dragon and Young Bucks not necessarily together, but Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy were in the middle of that ring, somehow surviving and looking incredibly impressive in the process. Like, the champions absolutely on point whenever the flow had them like dancing together, doing the double team offense in the ring. Like the Escalera della Doomsday. That was incredible. Like, excuse me? That was so damn good. The crowd to their feet in absolute love with the orchestrated mayhem here. Totally convincing me to cheer for the boy and his dinosaur as they kept him pressing against the odds in spite of the other 4 delving deeper and deeper down to what depths they were willing to fall in order to win. And Jungle Boy with an amazing fight back in the end, fighting out of the bang for your buck, a step up Rana, then Rana-ing Nick Jackson off the top rope into a German to the other Jackson. Before then, Luchasaurus came in so they could flip Matt over with the Jungle Express for the win. Amazing match. Like, bloody brilliant, non-stop amping up to such an unpredictable back and forth. And by the end of it, the crowd are just on their feet. Really, really, really solid. Again, can't give enough applause. These first 2 matches, I absolutely love. To be fair, the ladder match as well, that's coming up. Really loved it. Cody versus Cargill, also massively high in the match. Also, Dog Connor match, like, first 5 matches, for me, absolutely hit. Final 2 matches, absolutely hit. There's so much good wrestling on this show. As in, even though I've talked about the pacing problems, like, don't let that put you off. Like, you can, having heard what I've said, you can just maybe skip, but you need time to recover. So maybe just get to CM Punk MJF, then just stop, and then come back for the second half, like, afterwards. That's how I do it. Possibly, in a perfect world, these AEW pay-per-views are split into double nights on a Saturday and a Sunday, so that you can just recover. Because you're just knackered. Anyway, so let's get to the ladder match. Face of the Revolution ladder match. Christian versus Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks versus Wardlow versus Keith Lee versus Orange Cassidy. Such an enjoyable ladder match. Night and day over last year's Face of the Revolution. I'm just going to say that. Because last year's was a bit weird. He had guys in there that could go to strong singles runs or could slot back in. I remember at the time Pentagon Jr. was a bit of a favourite because he was doing a little thing with Cody Rhodes. Then Cody himself was in the match as like a kind of a figurehead character. Christian debuted on that show, so obviously he wouldn't be there. And then the other guy obviously was Scorpio Sky. He's like, oh yeah, he could go on and have a little bit of a showing. But this, every single guy had their moment, and the ladder match for last year was just a little bit messy. It didn't really feel like there was a massive need for it to exist, and then there were certain spots, but it didn't feel that memorable to me. This ladder match is absolutely solid. There's so many memorable moments. Taz right at the beginning going, we're going to need a bigger boat, as the big beefy boys are in the ring ready to meet Christian and his toys. The action playing out so damn well for each other, for each lad to shine. Like, for example, Christian is the first person to be on camera picking up a ladder and doing something with it. So, that makes so much sense that it's him, that it's Christian. The guy with the most experience in ladder matches, it's him that does that. Whilst the big beefy boys in Wardlow, Keith Lee and Powerhouse Hobbs were just tensing off at each other, going, no, I'm the biggest. Speaking of, Orange Cassidy, he got so many laughs out of me. As the big boys were being strong, and them tussling created great improv platforms for him to just climb and reach for the ring. Just twice that happened, and it resulted in Orange Cassidy just trying to grab the ring as they then pulled him back down. The first was the big lash just in the middle, and then Orange Cassidy has climbed the mountain that's been created. The second time when he's spinning around with the ladder, and he's in the middle of it doing the whirly, and then 2 big lads stop him, hoist him up so he's dangling in the air, skins the cat so he's on top of the ladder, and then he can suddenly reach for the ring. So inventive, so good, really, really, really solid. Orange Cassidy was great in this match. He got hurled about as well, got some babel. A great suplex from Hobbs to Cassidy off of the ladder. Some really, really memorable spots. And every single lad was booked to their strengths. Which, when a ladder match is like this, my favourite Rumbles are like that as well. Sometimes if the overall flow of a Rumble builds the winner feeling like it was a really earned moment, then that can really help. But if it's if every character in the Rumble also kind of is booked to their character's strengths, or even just their wrestling strengths, then that really, really helps. And this ladder match was, for me, no different. Every person booked to their strengths. Absolutely loved it. Teasing the big boys clashing until they settled with their own brawl up on the stage. It's it's great. Also, Wardlow getting his big singles win. It's a massive moment, which then leads into what happens 2 matches later, which we'll get to. But yeah, a massive moment for Wardlow. And you can see the mind games coming along, because again, it is their MJF was the one giving permission for Wardlow to actually win. They're not expecting him to win, but MJF did say that it's in the contract that if Wardlow wins anything, that victory belongs to MJF. So even though MJF said he can go back on his word, that's what good villains do. In anger at his defeat, lashing out at Wardlow, taking this win away from him. That's what I do. Unless it counts as like a full-on turn, which it could, for me, could also do. Could also do that as well. But his ladder match was great. It's so damn good. For me, what really helped is he did have those 3 beefy boys in there as well. Just gave it such a different dynamic. You can have Keith Lee hurl Ricky Starks all over the place. Also, that powerbomb at the end, good God. I don't know if Ricky Starks was knocked a bit off earlier in the match, because at the end, when Wardlow went to powerbomb him and the time was just a little bit off, and this Ricky Starks quite high on his shoulders, just like a onto the ladder. And I did like how he just stayed there. Let Wardlow have his moment. Ricky Starks didn't try a comedic fall or anything, or to roll through. He just stayed really high on his shoulders, just kind of curled up into a ball as Wardlow had his moment. I found that something really funny about that. I also appreciated it. Yeah, really good stuff. But yeah, 3 matches in a row. Every single one of them I really enjoyed. We're on such a roll at this point. When you're 3 matches deep into a show, and you've really enjoyed every single one, at that point you're just invested. It's like, you're gonna keep watching regardless. Like, that's a sign of that show's really got you at that point. Surprise contract signing. I mean, it would have been if Tony didn't wave the contract in front of the camera. It's like, oh damn you, Shivani. Just on the contract it just said Swerve. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I know it's coming out then. It's Swerve. Swerve's coming out. Like the real is here. Shane Strickland. And then he does the whole obviously for the people in the arena, they didn't know that. But Tony's just waved the contract in the camera. It's like, well, I mean that it's presented as if we're kind of meant to know a little bit, but not really. Aside from the fact he waved the contract in front of the camera. I just read what was on it. Like, that was an interesting signing reveal technique. Just to have the commentator wave the contract in front of the camera so you can just read what's on it and know who it is. Anyway, yeah, Swerve in AEW. That's been someone I've been really hyped to see in AEW. As soon as it's one of those, some people when you see that they're released by WWE, they just scream that they do well in AEW, and Swerve was one of them. Mostly because it screamed that Hit Row would do well in WWE, and then for whatever reason, when they got to the main roster, Vince just didn't get it, and very quickly they were gone. And then so it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, he was set for when he was in NXT, he just looked at everything he was doing, and he's just like, star. This guy's a star. And for the main roster to just not see that, like from almost week 1 or week 2, you could just tell. It's like, this sucks. So obviously, here we are in AEW. Swerve is a star. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, yeah, out comes Jay Strickland. The real is back, and it was really nice to see the crowd reacting to the Who's house, just chanting Swerve's house before he was even able to ask it, and then asking again and controlling them. Oh no, that was lovely. That was awesome to see. TBS Championship. Speaking of great matches, Jade Cargill also cosplaying as Jade from Mortal Kombat. Like, yes, great stuff. Jade, it's just a start. My one takeaway from this match is just that Jade Cargill was like an absolute star, and Tay Conti was here to add to that. Like, a much tougher competitor, but my God, Jade Cargill was incredible on this show. Like, two women 1 year into their AEW careers, and look at them now. Like, this was, for me, this was brilliant. From the first bell and kiss, and as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is the second time I've seen that Jade has done this, where she, like, at the start of the match, she just completely throws off her opponent by kissing them. And I can't remember, I think it was Thunder Rosa, I can't remember who it was. Completely threw them off a little bit. But I just watched that. I'm like, that's going to get over really quickly. Stuff like that is going to get over so fast. And Jade looked like an absolute star. Yeah, Tay Conti with the fighting paint on as well. And yes, in the chat, yes, it did rule. I really enjoyed this match. It was just so great to see the kind of dynamic of this, just to see her get so much offense in, and then for Jade just to dominate her and get the win. It's like, oh yes, like a competitor that felt like she could get some offense in Tay Conti. She's not the one to beat her, but she gets so much offense in that it helps Jade feel like a star when she destroys her again. Again, seeing how much these two have improved in the 1 year they've been in AEW, Like, look at them now. They're having my personal favourite. I know quite a lot of people like Statlander versus Hirsch. This was my match of the night. Oh, also, Kingfish. Gotta shout out Kingfish on the guitar for the entrance for Jade. Oh, just... She was oozing star power, and he really aided to that in the entrance. Just the way that sometimes when you're doing production and you just have the confidence to cut to somebody, like if somebody's on the stage just obviously being a bit nervous, production will also be nervous to cut to you. Not with Kingfish. Everything was smooth. The whole presentation, just like sheer calm confidence that he could cut to Kingfish, and he looked cool. He looked calm and confident, playing the guitar like incredibly well. Obviously, he's a like Grammy Award winning, one of the best guitarists in the US today, and it's just to see that in front of a big live crowd, and Jade Cargill's oozing confidence, and Kingfish is just in the groove. It's like, oh yes, the pairing was perfect. Really, really well done. Yeah, can't applaud it enough, and that's huge for Jade to have such a solid match in her resume. Because, of course, there's the Goldberg comparisons. Just because they're giving her an undefeated streak, therefore, it is the Goldberg. But still, I feel like she has got so much charisma. Again, where the comparisons start and end is the fact that it's an undefeated streak. That is it. Same with Hook. Like, it starts... he's no different than Goldberg. No, it's an undefeated streak. The comparison ends at the fact they're doing a defeated streak. When you look at the presentation, the characters, just the aura around both Hook and Jade Cargill, like it's the difference between them and Goldberg is absolutely startling. And obviously, we're talking about a guy who became a sensation, and looking at two other people also become sensations. But there's so much more around them that kind of helps aid that really. Just jumping on that sensation thing and really building it up. But yeah, round of applause to AEW. Then also Hook was on the pre-show and he got a massive pop. Like Hook is over, Jade Cargill is over. It's working. Don't drop it. Jade dropping the whole thing of 29 wins as well. So yes, it's great to see. It's great to see, and I can't wait to see where they go next in terms of like the improvement. Just because somebody put out on Twitter, like, enjoy Jade Cargill in wrestling whilst we've got her. Just because she screams that she's such a star. That wrestling being able to keep hold of her will be very, very fortunate. She's this good 1 year in. And she's training under Serena Deeb and Bryan Danielson. Like, oh my god. Yeah, say she's already got that star presence and then she trains under people like that. Like the learning tree AEW have. And I've not even got to William Regal. He came in. It was awesome to see Keith Lee's tweet of Papa Regal. Just to see him. That's great. Anyway, talking about stuff that was great. Dog collar match. CM Punk versus MJF. So this is, for me, the moment... This is the match which took so much out of me that after this match I was drained. It took me like a full hour to get back into the show. It took me William Regal. It seemed the same with the crowd as well. Where you can just sense it. He's just a bit tired. And he's, yeah. But anyway, CM Punk MJF. And this is when it hit me again. It's like, oh god, we're 5 matches in. This card just does not stop. This match was bloody. This match was violent. This match was everything you thought it was going to be. The absolute perfect way to cap off such a well-told story. And yeah, they finally did the CM Punk entrance fake out for Friedman after all this time. Only for CM Punk to go full Ring of Honor in both gear and AFI entrance to tap into the man that found that level of violence way back in his dog collar match way back when, and announced as the Second City Saint. This is not the best in the world we came to know in the WWE. This was a man much willing to go much darker, and MJF did really well just to sell that expression of oh crap, what have I got myself into? And the way that MJF tries to kind of sneak out of it a bit and try and hope that CM Punk would tap way earlier, way before the match got violent and MJF was in a lot of pain. They got over really quickly that there's no way to run or to stall because that collar gets you just dragged right back into harm's way. Punk's experience in this match also showing itself as he wraps a chain around the ring post and creates a pulley system to yank MJF back into the corner. yeah, just displaying some an innovative violence. But after that, Punk was crimsoned and whipped across the back as MJF just up to that level of violence first, then reaped what he sowed. But he was the one to kind of elevate it at the beginning. But yeah, a lot more pain was to come. Punk, a level of unforgiving we hadn't seen before in AEW. Unrelenting as he stomped on the man's hand. The fans chanting, "You deserve it," as a bloody CM Punk punched MJF in the face at ringside. There's so much blood, the referee had to legitimately put on a new pair of gloves. That tells you something. Like, with a match like this, it was only a matter of time before they poured out the thumbtacks in the middle of the ring. In his desperation, MJF shouting for Wardlow to bring out the ring. But where is it? Oh, where's the ring? Yeah. MJF turns around into a GTS and he falls back first onto the tacks. Which then is kind of like the Ric Flair thing, where he gets the big move and just walks a few steps forward and collapses. It reminded me of that, where, yeah, hit with the GTS and slowly falls backwards onto the thumbtacks and then has a whole second reaction. It's like, yeah, great. And, oh, the ring was in the right pocket. Ah, what a numpty, Wardlow. What a numpty you are. Before he then just placed the ring on the mat in front of Punk and walked off to an absolutely huge pop from the crowd. Just, like, of all the different ways I thought he'd turn, like, quite often the wrestling fan brain turns to the guy hitting a big move and then the crowd reacts. That's kind of like, in my head, it's just immediately what I just go to. But to go for something way more character driven, it's so much more impactful. It means so much more. The way they did this was so much better than anything I'd come up with. To be fair, I hadn't really thought about it that much. I was like, yeah, it'd be nice if he turned. Then maybe in my head pictured a powerbomb because on the telly he's doing the powerbomb. Not really thought about it that much more, to be fair. Other than, yeah, be nice. I like my slow burners. Anyway, yeah. Punk sliding the ring on to amp up and punch the man right out. A final spit to the face from Freeman before his lights were put out. Yeah, that's it. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk wins. A big old celebration. There's everybody is like, oh crap, right? Yeah, we've got to replace the ring mat. My God. And yes, DraftKings had sponsored every single one of them. Yeah, that was an AEW debut that I was not expecting. Was the DraftKings woman? It's like, oh, even she's AEW now. Good God. Oh, these WWE releases. Oh, these AEW signings are getting out of hand. They've even drafted the DraftKings woman. Yeah, but that CM Punk MJF match, I don't want to say it was the peak of the show, just because it was like, it took me in like an hour, or it felt like an hour. It was just the next two matches. It was right until the aftermath of the second one of these matches. That was when I tuned back into the show. As in, I was watching. I don't mean I physically just stopped watching. I mean, I'm watching it. I'm wanting to enjoy what I'm watching more than I actually am, and that's a shame. But then we get to William Regal coming out, wakes me up. So yeah, whatever amount of time it was, from the AEW Women's Championship to the end of Moxley Danielson, I was watching it, I was wanting to enjoy it, but I wanted to enjoy it more than it actually was. Anyway, so first off, the AEW Women's Championship, Dr. Britt Baker DMD versus Thunder Rosa. The new championship, before I get to the match, the new Women's Championship looks so damn nice. It looks great. Finally, a top tier title for the division. It looks amazing. If you've not seen it, just Google it. It looks really, really good. The first half of the match, like, for me, the first half was pacing with a tired crowd. Like, full well knowing where they are in the show, they've kind of got enough time to have like a first half where they'll build up the story that they're telling, but they'll amp it up in the second half. And I think, like, for me, that's like exactly what happened. The second kicking right into gear as we really got to see how great these two are together. It didn't reach the heights I wanted it to, but also I wasn't paying full attention, so I'm not really sure it would have mattered anyway, which is a shame. Honestly, yeah, again, it's that match where I wanted to enjoy it more than I actually was. Like, the crispy smooth final stretch certainly didn't hurt, but coming after the dog collar match always put them in a tough position, and they do this to the women's division quite a lot, which is a shame. Again and again, Rosa flat out had Baker beat. Like, if it weren't for the sidekicks taking the referee's attention, hammering home Rosa's words in the build that she was only champion because of Reba and Hayter, this match played out what we've been told. Like, You that feeling is first said, and then we're presented with it. It's the teacher thing. Like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you it, and then on Dynamite they're going to tell us what they taught us. That's the teacher thing. Tell the class what you're going to teach them. Teach them it. Tell them what you've taught them. And that's what happened here. They told us in the run-up. They had it. They taught it. They told us they were going to teach it us in the run-up. They taught it us here, and then they're going to remind us on Dynamite this next week. And for me, that's the biggest benefit of this match in terms of the kind of perception as Baker as champion. You set something up, and then you hammered it home here, and you get to really cement it on Dynamite as like a kind of a key component of the title reign now. As in, this will be how it's perceived. You'll get a lot of people on Twitter now really complaining about interference and stuff, just because like that's a core point brought up into the actual perception of the character. They told you that they were going to do that, and then they did it here. And yeah, actually, in terms of the referees, actually, I will just the comment like Frank Newbecker just saying that I wish the refs would have a little more control over the outside people. The one thing I do like about AEW is when you see the referee, you kind of know what kind of match you're going to get. Like, you've got Vic Knox there, you've got 6 people. The tag rules aren't going to be followed. Like, they're going to be very loose. He's not going to be making anybody get into their corners. Ref Aubrey, a bit more, it's probably going to make them. The Ring of Honor ref, he's more likely going to make those tag team people stay as they properly should. This match, I think this match was I say the Ring of Honor guy because I can't remember his name. I just remember he was a Ring of Honor referee before AEW started. He's got the short dark hair. He did CM Punk MJF, and I think he did do this women's match. But yeah, I do kind of agree. It's a thing that watching New Japan I've kind of become used to, where the people on ringside like really have to do something truly egregious. Like if I'm playing on a WWE video game and someone's got a manager and they are able to distract that much, I'm gonna do everything I can to never have to wrestle a match and never have to play a game where somebody's got a manager. Like if I'm on universe mode and I see that somebody's got a manager at ringside, I'm just selecting the character that's got the manager at ringside. I don't care what I would have preferred to. I don't know which person I would have preferred to climb the rankings, but they're not climbing it this week because I'm not bloody. That's sheer amount of interference. But yeah, I feel like there's a certain level to it, and this match, because the entire point of it was to hammer home that she's only champion because of those two, and this match did that. But obviously, I don't want that to continue. That's where the evil problem in New Japan kind of comes in. It's all right for one match when you're hammering home a story beat, but when that becomes every single match, like the Jinder Mahal run, where they established that he was really only champion because of his, again, 2 sidekicks, but then every single title defense plays out the exact same way. It's like, no, like you can set this up for here, it's fine, but when it comes to Double or Nothing, either those people have to be not there to really set up she could lose this time, or she loses them during the match and then that situation is created. Personally, I'd build Double or Nothing. I don't know who she's going to face. It could be Thunder Rosa again, but I don't know if I'll pick someone else. Or it could be one of her sidekicks. It could be Jamie Hayter. There's enough time between now and Double or Nothing to really build something. But it's just that thing of you play off of what's been set up. You don't do what they did with the Jinder Mahal run, what New Japan had done with Evil, and just play the same beat over and over again. It's like, no. I'll very quickly become really irritated with these interferences if they start doing that. That's kind of where I fall. And definitely, I do agree, in AEW, like, the managers, they just don't get ejected. It's just not a thing. And only the comedy ones do. Like, it's fine. Like, Mark Sterling, he can get ejected, but they don't often get ejected in AEW. They can do a lot. It takes a lot. Like, they have to be in a ring assaulting the person in the middle of the ring blatantly to get ejected. It's not often why the comedy ones do, because they play off that their timing's not very good. So yes. Like, unfortunately, for me, Baker Rosa felt like the breather between 2 stellar clashes. Like, which sucks given how big this rematch could have been. So yeah. Anyway, Marxley versus Danielson. Loud, we want violence. Chants from the crowd. I just realised how sore my throat is. That's what I get for speaking for 50 minutes straight at like 5 in the morning. Anyway, Marxley versus Danielson. Starting with a contest of wrestling and just having the odd pop and shot and kick before we truly enter the realms of violence with both lads bleeding as they delivered their blows. Like, these two are both so good. Like, a great spot as Brian went to kick Mox's head in, only for him to catch the leg and reverse it into them both sat there kicking at each other. I was like, oh, that was great. I love that. Shortly after, it was Mox stamping on the head of Danielson. It took a Psycho knee to ground Marxley enough for Danielson to finally enact his violence. In the end, Brian was on top, triangle choke locked in, and refusing to let go as his opponent was gradually fading away. But Mox flipped over, and that refusal to let go led to no escape as John snatched the pin. Danielson irate as he's then going after the referee, grabbed by the shirt, and the two of them, in Moxley and Danielson, they just charge at each other. Just full angered aggression, going after each other once more. Out comes security for a big old brawl, and William Regal charges out. The crowd pop, a huge pop for William Regal. He's just in the middle of the ring, and he slaps Moxley across the face to calm him down. Danielson also smiling and also kind of gesturing about, so Regal slaps him in the face, and just some stern words. Yeah, a couple of slaps in the face and some stern words got a respectful handshake between the two. And commentary were really selling how William Regal's a really important part of like both of those two's upbringing. It's like, oh, the fact that Regal was employed in WWE when they started this, and they realised, oh my god, this guy who's like a massive figurehead in the development of both of these men. What if, going forward with the stable, what if they've got William Regal too? I'm just like, oh my god. Like, Regal doesn't have to be an authority figure or anything. AEW don't have authority figures. But Regal as a manager for Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. Oh my god. That is so perfect. That is so good. I'm interested. I don't know if excited is the word. I'm more like, immediately I want to see what this dynamic is. It's got me so interested. Like, what is this dynamic going to be between the three of them? Is it just going to be scowling Moxley and Danielson with William Regal giving his harsh lessons? I don't know. Is this the formation of Regal, Moxley, Danielson? And those three do become like teachers of a stable. I don't know. It's got me really interested what this dynamic is. I can't really ask for more, really, in that situation. Like, yeah, I'm really, really interested in what's coming next. Anyway, one more match to talk about, and then I can go to bed. The 6-man chaos match. My god, crazy chaos. Sammy Guevara, Sting, and Darby Allin versus Andrade, Isaiah Cassidy, and Matt Hardy in just a little, like, fun little recovery match, guys. Just a little. That's all this was. Just a little bit of fun. As you get your little high flyer in Darby, he gets to do his little stuff. Or you got your legend in Sting, or you got your Matt Hardy, you got your little fun with teasing Jeff and everything. You got your wrestler that you probably like in Andrade. You got your young high flyer. Yeah, no, this was not a breather. My God. Sting doesn't have breather matches. Jesus Christ. Yeah, and just, you can sense it. Like, the video package of Darby Allin just at the funeral for Cassidy, Andrade, and Hardy, then just flies in a car into a caravan and just gets out of it. Coffin drops onto the minister, I guess, before Sting with a flamethrower comes along. And in terms of your, I guess, AEW bingo card, I'm assuming nobody had Sting with a flamethrower. Then just burns everything, all the different pictures that were there for the opponents. Then Darby Allin comes out, and I'm expecting him to kind of walk out, kind of pose, to have a little thing with Sammy, because Sammy's kind of offering to do that, and then they walk down together. Nope, he has his little look at Sammy. Sammy does what I expected him to, and then Darby just charged down the ring and does an amazing dive, taking Andrade over the top rope. I'm just like, oh my god, tone set. Okay. Again, I was just expecting this to kind of like stay around the ring, you keep that energy, and even going by the rest of the show, I was like, this could be going at this pace because they've had their time cut. because we're at that point now where it's kind of like, okay, we can have this fun thing where you just go out pure energy, 5 minutes, just get all your shit in. But no. This was the pace for the entire 10-15. It was, Sting does not have breather matches. My God, yeah. The crowd were right back awake after Regal's arrival. It just Darby's energy charging right down the ramp. The chaos in his multi-man tag really kept that momentum up for the main event. The most I'd felt awake in an hour. It was so damn good. Yes, so many crazy spots. An electric current ran through this match. It just jolted me awake. I was like, my God, this is incredible. This is not the first time we've done this on the pay-per-view as well. I think they had a tag match in a previous pay-per-view where pretty much this happened as well. You were thinking, it'd be fine. And then it was just balls to the walls insane. Loved it. Ramping up into higher and higher amounts of crazy chaos. 1 minute, Sting's just in the ring fighting off Hardy and Cassidy with what I was expecting the match to kind of be. You get your legend moment, you get your Sting looking like the really tough, unbeatable icon. And the next minute, Sammy's hitting a Spanish fly off the staging through 2 tables. My God. Not to be topped, Sting brawling with Matt Hardy through the crowd. They end up going to the fan balcony, and there's 4 tables set up. I was like, oh God, well, is this going to lead to Darby? Okay, so I see Darby Allin is then fighting Andrade underneath them, so you got that cool shot. Sting fighting Hardy up high, and then you got Andrade and Darby Allin. I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. You're going to have your fight there, and then Sting's going to help Darby climb up, and Darby's going to coffin drop through Andrade. No. The 60-something-year-old man who's 2 weeks from being even older than that. His birthday's in 2 weeks. He's already in his 60s. He's the one that jumps off the balcony and crashes through all 4 tables. It's like, oh my God. As Sting and Andrade just crash into wooden oblivion. It's like, oh my God. Sting, what are you? Oh, it's just, yeah. I was not expecting that. Just for 60-something-year-old Sting to dive off that. And through 4 tables, as if he's the younger Daredevil with no kind of care in the world, driving his body like someone else's car. My God. Allin then grabbing the win after reversing a Hardy chair assisted twist of fate and following up with a coffin drop. And in the end of it all, a little respect shown in a bubbling rivalry between Guevara and Allin, which you do want to bubble. Because these are 2 of the 4 pillars, and the way that they build these I'm finding really interesting, because if you want these to be the future, you can't just burn the rivalry away. So you can't do an MGFC and Punk where you have 3-4 months absolutely solid, you heat it up as hot as possible, then you have the big pay-per-view payoff. No, I feel like it's one to dabble into. You do that eventually, obviously, but you can bubble it now. There's a little thing there. There's something to play with. Just keep bubbling it. Oh, it's so much fun. It was exactly what I needed at the perfect time. Because again, I was so tired watching the previous 2 matches. And I'm watching Danielson Moxley, and I'm just like, this is solid. This is incredible, really strong, credible wrestling. Then they amp it up with the blood. It just becomes more violent in the second half. It's still with great technical stuff, but then again, it's a lot more bloody, a lot more violent. And I'm just watching it like, yes, great. But I'm not really caring. I was sad that I wasn't caring, because I was like, I could still tell what I was watching was really good, but I just wasn't invested. I just wasn't in there. It turns out all I needed was just nonsense. At that point of the night, I don't want really solid, awesome technical wrestling. I wanted balls to the walls, crazy bollocks. That's exactly what this was. This is what I wanted. I wanted stupid shit. Give me this. Give me this. Anyway. Really enjoyed it, and it carried over. A triple threat on Rampage was also insane. And then they had this crazy match here, setting up whatever's set to come next. I don't know. I'm assuming this is going to bubble. Maybe we're bubbling Guevara Allin all the way to Double or Nothing, and this is just a nice little way to simmer it. Then you can put it on the back burner. Just come back to it later. You've already kind of built that a little bit. Guevara beat both Andrade and Allin, and he pinned Andrade in the match. So Allin was not the one defeated, so he's got that in. Oh yeah, it all works out. It all works out. But anyway, yes, Revolution was a really solid pay-per-view with, for me, an absolute pace dip after MJF CM Punk. I didn't get into Baker Rosa. Unfortunately for me, I didn't really get into Bryan Danielson Moxley, maybe until maybe it's just the final sequences where I was like, yeah, this is solid, but I wasn't invested. Then Regal came out, absolutely popped for that, and then the crazy match brought me right back into the show, and then I really absolutely loved the main event as well. It's like, oh, that's why it's difficult. That's why I don't give numbers, because giving a number for this show is really difficult. Because there are 2 matches where I wasn't paying attention. Well, I was watching, I was trying to pay attention, but I just wasn't. I couldn't. I just wasn't invested in what was happening. But everything else on the show, I thought was top notch. So it's difficult. Do I have to? If we're doing a number, would I have to give that an 8? Even though, everything but 2 things is like a 9. It's because I really enjoyed them. Again, it's just preference stuff. Because then I'm giving 9s to crazy bollocks like the 6-man tag, and I'm giving 9s to match of the year stuff. So it's like, that's why I don't do this. No. Yeah, it's all on gut. When I'm asked to contribute to end of year lists for different sites and people and things, it's like, yeah, it's all on gut. I put blood and guts in my top matches for AEW. I even went on an AEW podcast and talked about how much I enjoyed blood and guts. I was stand by it. I enjoyed it, but I know it's not the people's favourites, and I totally understand why. So, yeah, when I find a favourite match, I'll sing about it. I'll love it. But yeah, so yeah, that's what it's a weird review, just because I'm so incredibly positive on 7/9 of this show, and then there's just 2 matches I'm just I just didn't do anything for me. But then the other 7 nights, when they all hit, the consistency was incredible. Aside from those 2, so, that's why it's a weird one to review. Great wrestling, maybe a bit too long of a show. Maybe that's the only thing. Anyway, that does bring me to the end of the review, as I can, when you're just really tired and you can just feel yourself sway just a little bit, my balance is a little bit off, a bit like you're drunk. So that's where I'm at. So yeah. Anyway, I will be back. I think I'm set for the AEW review this Thursday. I think it's when I'm set back next. If not, I'll put something out on Twitter just so I know. So you can follow me on Twitter at the damn implicat. That's damn as in damn. I've also got my Twitch there. Maybe I've not done my Twitch in a little while, but if anyone does want to follow me on Twitch, the option is there. But more importantly, the website that we're doing this for, wrestlingheadlines.net. You can go to wrestlingheadlines.net. Also the Facebook page as well for all your latest wrestling news and routinely updated. Awesome. The following is great. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching, listening, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. And what did you make of Revolution? Did you really, really enjoy what you saw on the show most like I did? Or did you experience no dips when you watched it? Which in that case, I'm jealous of your stamina. But I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this show. Did the highs hit as high as they did for you? Like it did for me. What about the debuts? The debuts are often the thing that grab a lot of attention from people who don't watch AEW. It's like, oh, they got this person now. Oh, they got that. It's like, yeah. Also, shout out to friend of the show, Rich Latter, who has been absolutely killing it doing the beats for multiple songs on the AEW Who We Are TD that's come out. And he was performing at the AEW show the other night. Was that last night? I can't remember. I think it was last night. I think it's in those tweets today. There's a lot going on in Europe right now. Sometimes these things just they do kind of fall to the wayside because they're just not important right now. But anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching, liking, listening in any form, any manner. Actually, on that as well, I'll just say that Revolution is just a nice distraction this weekend. It's nice. During lockdown when I would say WrestleMania, a lot of when I was trying to review WrestleMania, I was like, I don't need this show to be the best thing ever. I kind of need it to just be a distraction and just to suck me into this world for a while. And Revolution did that. Yeah. And then I was tired and done with it, even though it's great. That's my Revolution review. I was 2.5 hours in. I was tired and done with it, even though it was great. Yes. And yes, go. Yes, go Rich. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for listening and liking. I've already done that outro, but this time it's a proper one. And thank you, Frank. Thank you. Much needed when it's this late and my throat is this sore and my balance is this off. Anyway, do I need to check I'm definitely sober? Anyway, with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.